there, I'm Dr. Wilkins, and I'm the Chair of Graduate Education at Belhaven University. The APA Manual is the textbook that we use when you write all of your papers for the School of Education. And the manual has recently gone to from the 6th edition to the 7th edition. This PowerPoint is to highlight the differences between those two editions and to show you explicitly how we want your papers formatted for every assignment you do for Belhaven. This PowerPoint and the accompanying quiz will also be taken by the professors. So students and professors will have the exact same information and everybody knows what will be expected on papers. This will make grading much more consistent and eliminate some of the frustration that occurs when different professors use different editions of the book. So now we're going to look at the APA Formatting Guide, the manual from the 7th edition. It became available this January, and as of summer courses, this is the format that Belhaven School of Education is requiring. The source of this information is from the Ashford University. I am using it with their permission. They have a document out there with all of the changes highlighted, and I just turned that document into this PowerPoint. Many of you like to use Purdue OWL. Purdue OWL is a good resource, but it has a lot of mistakes, so please do not use Purdue OWL, or if you use Purdue OWL and you find that your formatting is different from what we expect, then you need to expect your grade to be lowered. Purdue OWL is not your main reference. Now here are some general guidelines for formatting. In the 7th edition, you're allowed to use many different fonts. They are all listed here. However, this is the only place where Belhaven is being different from the 7th edition. We only want 12 point. We want Times New Roman 12 point. Ignore all the other options. We don't want them. Now, your entire document, everything in it is double spaced. Please make sure you turn off add space after paragraph. Most computers automatically add a space between paragraphs. That gives you triple space and you will be counted off for triple space. All of your margins are 1 inch all the way around, top, bottom, left, and right. You want to leave your left margin justified. That means the left side of your paper, the words go down in a straight line, except for paragraphs that are indented. The right side is ragged. Don't force it so that on the right side of the paper it's straight. Just let the words automatically go to the next line, leave the right side uneven. Do not use right less justified. The paragraphs are indented 1/2 inch, or on most computers, just hit the tab button one time and you have your 1/2 inch paragraph indent. You only want 1 space after punctuation. Now this is something very different in the 6th edition. After a period, you hit the space bar twice. In the 7th edition, after a period, you hit the space bar once. So even at the end of a sentence, only hit the space bar 1 time after a period, 1 time after a colon, 1 time after a comma. After every punctuation mark, you only hit that space bar once. That's a big change from the 6th edition. Now, here is another big change. Now, if you are a doctoral student watching this, ignore this. Everybody else, student papers do not need to fool with a running head. You do not need an abstract and you do not need an author note. The only thing a student paper has up in the top margin is a page number on the right-hand margin. So there are no more fooling. You don't have to fool with running heads. I know that has been really bothering a lot of students. It's a pain to get, to get the paper set up so that the different headers are different on page 1 and page 2. Don't have to fool with that anymore. Page 1 is the cover sheet. Every page comes right after that. So I like that change. Now for Belhaven. A Belhaven School of Education title head needs the page number in the top right margin up in the header, not on the first line, but up in the header. It needs the title of your paper, and you put this in bold. That is new. The first letter of any major word is capitalized. That is new. You need your full name, the school name. You need your course code in the name. You need your instructor's name and the date submitted. So you can see the 7th edition title page has a lot of differences. The page number is included in the top right margin, and it is included on all pages. So you start with page 1 and you go to whatever the last page number is. The title of the page is centered, it's bold, and here is something different. It's 3 to 4 lines down after the top margin. We decided not to make it exactly 3 or exactly 4. Now these are single spaces, not double spaces. 3 or 4 single spaces. So you're looking at about an inch from the top of the page. The remaining information appears one double-spaced line below the title. So you've got your title, then you have all of the information right under it, double-spaced. Don't make big spaces. Everything's double-spaced. It is centered, double-spaced, standard font, that means regular capital letters, just like you would normally do the title of a book. Do not bold, do not underline, no italics, nothing like that. Here is a sample paper. Now I know on the PowerPoint you can't read it, but it has all the information. Notice the properly formatted APA student paper. You see how the page 1 is up at the top? That is in the right margin. A properly formatted APA student paper, that is 4 lines down from not the top edge of the paper, but from the top margin of the paper. Then you have your name, Belhaven University, EDU, whatever the number is, and then put the name of the class, the instructor's name, and the date the assignment is due. A copy of a fully formatted paper that you can use as a template is included in this orientation course. Please notice, no running head. The only thing you see is the page number. The title, this is 4 lines down from the top. It's the upper half of the page. You do not want any title or degree with your name. So if you are a doctor, if I write a paper, I would not write Dr. Cynthia Wilkins. I would just write Cynthia Wilkins. You want the academic department, the course, the instructor, and the date. Now, the body of the paper, you want to number the first text page as page 2. Remember, the cover sheet is page 1. Center and bold the full title of the paper at the top of the page. No more short titles. Those used to be up in the running head. We're not worried about short titles at all. You put the full title of the paper. Type the text double-spaced with all sections following each other without a break. So if you have different sections of your paper, different headers, do not start a level 1 header on a new page. It just flows wherever it follows in the paper. Please watch out for widows and orphans. That's if you have a header at the bottom of the page, but the paragraph doesn't start until the next page. Don't do that. Identify the sources you use in the paper with either narrative citations or parenthetical in-text citations. And later on in this lecture, plus in the lecture on APA or on plagiarism, I'll be going over that in both of those lectures. Level headings. They can be placed anywhere in your paper as a way to classify or organize your paper into sections. There are 5 levels of headings. Now, unless you are a doctoral student, you probably won't use more than level 1 and level 2, and occasionally level 3. But there are 5 levels, and the 7th edition has changed the formatting. Levels 4 and 5 are typically used in master's theses or dissertations. So for your assignments in your coursework, don't worry about levels 4 and 5. You won't be writing 50, 60-page papers. So here is a sample. These are the levels 1 through 5, APA heading. Notice level 1, it's centered, bold, title case headings. You see how every main word is capitalized. Then the text begins a new paragraph, next line. Level 2, flush left, title, bold, title case headings. Notice the only difference between a level 1 and a level 2 is level 2 is flush left. The text still starts below it as a new paragraph. Text 3 becomes a little bit different. It looks just like level 2, except it's italicized and the text begins as a new paragraph. Level 3 used to have the text beginning at the end of the heading. This is a change. If you're a doctoral student, I'll let you read level 4 and level 5. Now, in-text citations. All in-text citations for direct quotations include the following. If I can get my clicker to click. There we go. The author's last name, or just the title if it doesn't have an author. This is a change. It used to be last name, comma, then the author's initials. Now it's just last name. The year the source was published, and the page, paragraph, chapter, section, timestamp, whatever helps the reader find exactly where it is that you said that, or that you cited that. All in-text citation for paraphrased information. Now, what I just told you is for direct quotations. For paraphrase information, you still have the author's last names, you have the publication year, and you include page, paragraph, chapter, etc. optional. If you're paraphrasing, you do not have to have page numbers. You might be paraphrasing several paragraphs, so if they break across the page, where would you cite that? So if you're paraphrasing, page numbers are optional. All sources cited within the paper must be listed in your reference list. The exception to this is personal communication. You only cite that in the text. Personal communication does not go in your reference list. Any quotation fewer than 40 words are enclosed in quotation marks. The in-text citation comes before the ending punctuation. So if I wanted to cite that statement, all quotations fewer than 40 words, I would need to put that in quotes. At the end, where it says punctuation period, I would say punctuation, parentheses, cite it, close parentheses, period, quotation marks. Anything that is more than 40 words is a block quote. Block quotes start on a new line. The entire quote is indented a half an inch, just like you would indent a paragraph, but every line is a half an inch indented. And the in-text citation for this comes after the ending punctuation mark. And you do not need to use quotes in a block quote. Just because you have blocked it and moved it in tells the reader this is a block quote. And the key is more than 40 words. Here are some examples. A parenthetical citation includes the author's last name, year of publication, separated by a comma, parentheses. And here's the example. If I can get my clicker to work. There we go. Research suggests that APA Publication Manual is a good resource for students. Atkins, 2018, period. Now, a narrative citation includes the author's name in the sentence. So it's the same statement, but this time Atkins, parentheses, date, suggests that the APA manual is a good resource. Same information, same source, two different ways of citing it. Notice this is not a direct quote, therefore I do not need page numbers. Here's another example. What if you don't have a date of publication? Atkins, no date. Okay. If it does not have an author, the APA Publication Manual is a good resource for students, parentheses, the title of the resource, date, page 18. If the source you're citing has page numbers, add that information. For parenthetical, the page number follows the year of publication. Research suggests the APA Publication Manual is a good resource for students, parentheses, Atkins, comma, 2018, comma, page, or P, period, 1 space, 12, parentheses, period. If it's narrative, you put it at the end. So you still have Atkins, parentheses, 2018, but at the end of the sentence, page 12. Now your references list starts on a new page. This is the exception to all headers flow. The reference is a new section of your paper, so it starts on a new page. The title is references. You don't call it works cited, you don't call it bibliography, you don't call it reference. Even if you only have one reference, it's still references. It's centered, bold. All of your entries are in alphabetical order, and everything on this list can be found somewhere in the body of your paper. You have cited everything on that list in your paper, and everything in your paper that you have mentioned is on that list. Remember, the exception is personal communication. You are double spacing between entries. Within each entry, everything is double spaced throughout the paper, no single spacing, no triple spacing. And you use what's called a hanging indent. For example, notice we have an author, AA, the year, title of the book. Pay attention to where those periods fall because you need to use them the same way. Here we have a lot of authors, and notice it's in alphabetical order. We have the title of the article. The title of the journal, volume, and issue is italicized. You've got your pages. And then HTTPS, now you're putting the location, the web location, if you got the article online. Center the title references and bold it. Double space your entries. Flush left. Indent all the other lines. And make sure they are alphabetical by the author's last name. Now we're dealing with style. This is how you put your words on the page. If you're using a number 1 through 9, you spell them out. Notice I didn't say numbers and then put the numeral 1. Numbers 1 through 9 are spelled out. Any number above 10, you use the number. Notice I wrote 10 as a numerical. It's 10. So if I want to talk about 7 people, I write out the word 7. But if I want to talk about 70 people, I write the number 70. Do not use contractions. Don't, can't, shouldn't. Do not use cliches. Do not use jargon. Do not use slang. Keep it academic. We do have a lot of issues with our candidates using a lot of colloquialisms, a lot of common speech. We get a lot of students using text speech. In other words, what you put in your text messages to each other is not appropriate for a paper. The abbreviation for in my opinion, no, you write, well, actually you don't write in my opinion, but you don't put those little text shortcuts in your paper. Limit the use of passive voice. I know personally I have a problem with passive voice. I use it all the time, and I have to go back and revise my paper. Passive voice needs to be limited. Avoid anthropomorphism. That's a big, long word. It simply means you are giving human characteristics to inanimate objects. So the desk did not talk to you. This lecture, well, I'm talking to you, but a passage in a book did not speak to you. They don't speak, so do not use anthropomorphisms. Use appropriate pronouns. Now, there's been a change, and it bugs those of us who are over the age of 20, but in their wisdom, Merriam-Webster Dictionary has determined that the word there, T-H-E-I-R, can be used as a singular pronoun. That is something new. That's something I'm going to have to work to get used to, but use your appropriate pronouns. A big problem in student writing, they use the pronoun it, and it can refer to a lot of things. So if you try to think about it, don't use the word it in your writing. Always put whatever it is instead of the word it. Use italics only when appropriate in formatting or emphasizing a word. So if your paper is describing the definition of a very technical word, it is appropriate to put that word in italics. Draw the reader's attention to that word. Watch the biased language. It's very easy to let some bias come into the writing and you don't even know it. Use the appropriate APA headings. Now, the serial comma, that's a fancy word of saying you have a sentence that has more than one comma. It's used to separate items in a series of 3 or more. So follow seriation rules when you do lists. In other words, if you have a list, they all end in commas until you get to the last one in the list and it has a period. You want to format and properly cite any tables, images, or figures that you use. Most of the undergraduate papers will not need to have tables, images, or figures. That's primarily for doctoral candidates, but I didn't want to remove it just in case you did have one in your paper. Now, if you're referring to research or a source that's already been published, you use the past tense.